Woo! Hey everybody, Bing Bong Bubblegum gamers, and welcome to the GameSpace Game Show. Steven Weber here, and sorry for the technical difficulties. I think we're firing on all cylinders now. What do you think there, Dame? Are we good to go?
I think we're probably firing on 3/4 cylinders, but you know what? We're gonna have a good time with what we got.
Excellent. Well, I got to do our GS2 phrase that I always do. Thanks for tuning in again to GS2, the only show where the Spanish phrase al pastor doesn't refer to a taco, but to our guest host, Pastor Dane. And
I love it.
Happens to be here. Welcome, Dame again. Wouldn't it be weird if I used that intro when you weren't guest hosting?
That would be, I think I would be maybe a little bit honored that you were remembering me while I wasn't here with you. But I love it. It's good. Actually I had tacos al pastor for the first time the other day. Really? Yeah, I've never tried it before. And my wife and I were out at one of our local and pretty amazing Mexican restaurants, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. It's on the menu. I'm feeling kind of adventurous. I'm going to try something new.
It's not a very adventurous thing to eat.
No, it's not.
It's just a taco, pretty much. It's a good taco, and it works. I mean, that intro works because you and I were foodie friends, so technically,
yes, indeed, it
could refer to both you and a taco, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm good either way.
Well, I've never been confused with a taco, but I suppose there is a first time for everything.
That's true. That's true. And hopefully you weren't confused this last time you tried it. But so, Dame, we are ankle deep in PAX West this week, but only
really are.
Deep, yeah, because it really just kicked off today, so our coverage thus far is barely coverage at all.
Well, even though we do have two people on the ground right now, they are enjoying the festivities and revelries that come along with PAX. Exactly. Hopefully they are not getting the PAX pox.
I've heard it's really terrible. Have you had a chance to check out any goings-ons at PAX? I don't know how to say that.
You know what? I really have not, other than NVIDIA did a golden ticket giveaway where they hid around, I think, like 5 or 6 golden tickets around the convention center and gave out some RTX 2080s. So that's pretty all right for them to do that.
Those jerks.
So there's that. There's a little indie game that I've been following for the last little while called The Church in the Darkness. That it looks really, really good. Shoot, I'm trying to remember the name of the voice actors and actresses that are involved. The gal that voiced GLaDOS in the Portal games is one of the main voices in the game, and for me, being a pastor and also kind of interested in like some of those kind of more religiously connected stories and games and stuff like that. Like I've been really, really following this thing with some sense of anticipation. They finally found a partner publisher, so looking forward to seeing that once it. I'm looking forward to seeing more from like a playable demo. I hear that there's a playable alpha now that's out. So I am hoping to get in on that.
I haven't heard anything about that. What kind of game is it again?
So it's kind of an interesting like stealth / espionage game. The premise of the game is that it follows this guy who has a relative that joined this like quasi-Christian cult that built this compound in South America, and they haven't heard from their nephew for quite some time. Your sister gets in touch with you, and you go down undercover to try to infiltrate this place and figure out what's going on. Get in, sneak around, get as much information as you can, and then get out of Dodge.
Right.
But everything that I've heard so far is like. Looks really, really good with this game.
Well, I don't know anything about it, so I'm looking forward to seeing more information on it. I didn't even know it was a thing. And as you mentioned before, Dame, we have both Robert and Bill over there at PAX, and they are currently having a big dinner with some superstars, or else they would have been here to give us their impressions. But Tales from the PAX Crypt says that the big reveals are going to hit tomorrow. So we're not going to really have any big information until tomorrow. But last week we did a big Gamescom show. So everybody who's watching right now, we've got some people on Twitch and everywhere. We've also got some people on Facebook. If you haven't checked out last week's episode, head on over there and check it out, because we actually had some good information from Gamescom. But last week I spoke a little bit about New World, and we've gotten a bit more information since then, where Amazon Studios revealed servers could house between 500 players from the jump up to 10,000 players eventually. And that's a big disparity. It's 500, 10,000.
I mean, after a certain point in time, you just kind of lose track of numbers.
Yeah. So it could be 500, it could be 10,000. I don't know.
Right. Right.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find any gameplay. You looked for gameplay too. We've been trying to find some gameplay on this.
Anything that I found was just simply like some art that was out there, and some just kind of collected in a leaked trailer. So
a leaked trailer, but I mean, the screenshots have now been there are screenshots out there of the game now, and I wouldn't say that they're particularly awesome in any way, shape, or form. I don't find them really that great. There's nothing really for the public to see, so it's a big bummer as far as Amazon Game Studios and New World, and I hate them. Dame, what's your hype level for New World right now? What do you know about it? You know nothing, but go ahead.
Here's the deal. It's not on my radar. Because there's been nothing to get hyped about.
Right.
As far as, I mean, everything that we've had has been purely speculative, and so it's just hard to get excited out of nothing.
Right. Well, a little bit that I can say about New World based on what I know about it. 15th century, supernatural.
Interesting.
There's a bear in one of the screenshots, and conquistadors. That's it. That's everything I got for you right now.
Can I play as a bear conquistador? Because that would be awesome.
If you could, that would up my hype meter by 10,000.
Okay.
Between 500 and 10,000. Basically.
Gotcha. Yeah. That'd be a good range. That's a really modest range for you to be excited. As long as my bear, had some type of immunity or, racial buff to, the consumption of maize, then, we'd be all right.
Yeah, well, I mean, 500 to 10,000 is much better than the current 2 that it's at right now. But we do have some people on our team who are really excited for it, and none of them are out there right now talking about it. So I guess they're okay with our hype being so low.
I suppose.
Or they're just not watching the show right now, which is probably better for us all, so that they're
probably still trying to dig for information for it.
Yeah. Well, here's news. Probably bigger news. Well, no, let's not hit that quite yet. Let's go back to the PAX floor, because I do have one game that I wanted to show. It's an indie game, and it's not a great game as far as I can tell yet, because there's only so much that I've seen. But it's called The World Next Door. It's an indie game adventure puzzler for Switch. Kiwi did an article about it on GameSpace. It's really the only confirmed news that I have out of a new game title that's kind of being thrown out to Switch in the near future, 2019. I have a little gameplay trailer that I'm going to show, and it's interesting to say the least, and I think that this might be something that you, Dame, could get into.
All right.
Let's
see it.
Tell me what you think about it. It's got a lot of really weird looking characters, little demons. It's kind of got puzzles going on, and not really sure what's happening. I wouldn't say it's exciting necessarily from the jump, but it does look like it might have some interesting gameplay that we don't really get to see very often. So this is something that I know Kiwi posted and maybe looking forward to. Art style is interesting. And
it's kind of got a quasi like anime meets like PBS cartoon vibe. Like it's like anime meets Magic School Bus.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. I'm not going to say specifically that it's something I'm looking forward to, but I'm sure it's going to come across one of our desks soon, and we're going to have to review it. I'm not going to be the one to raise my hand for it, but if it falls to me, I think I'll take a good shot at it. I mean, gameplay looks interesting, but that's that's it for PAX. There's a lot more to be shown at PAX, and unfortunately, we just don't have any new information to give you guys on the games. There are a lot of demos out there, and Robert sent me a bunch of messages. He's like, "Hey, I got to play this or I got to play that, but I can't really tell you much about it. All the stuff that I can say is embargoed for a while." So next week we might get a lot of information, and we might have to double up on next week's show. So that's pretty much it from the PAX floor, unfortunately.
Well, I was going to say that is kind of a little bit of the nature of some of these press events. Just kind of speaking from the experience of being part of the team that's covered some events from publishers. Right. I mean, non-disclosure agreements are really, really scary documents, and if you've seen one of those, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, they're pretty lengthy legal documents, and so when you're in a situation where you gain some of that information ahead of time, it's really hard to not talk about it, but you also want to try not to put yourself in situations where you might accidentally talk about something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the non-disclosure agreements all, come with the big skull and crossbones on them. And so, I mean, just seeing that in general, you already know, like, I can't talk about anything.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. We're definitely going to check out what's going on tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to probably be the biggest day of the show, and we'll keep you guys updated next weekish to let you know what really happened on PAX. But of course, we're going to have several million articles written between now and then that we're just going to recap on next week's show. So if you don't want to sit there reading like a loser, you can just listen to next week's show, which we're also going to have a cool developer interview next week. We have a developer interview with the bus simulator developers. So that's going to be kind of cool. But let's move into, we're going to do all those plugs later. Let's talk about what's going on in news this week.
All right.
Let's hit that first. What do you got for news this week, Dame?
Well, one of the big things that's again, this is me riding a little bit of the hype train here. Actually, no, this isn't me riding the hype train. This is me being the conductor.
You're the conductor of the hype train.
I am the conductor. I'm the conductor of the hype train. Before I get into this, I want to just give a quick shout out to some of our people that are watching over on Facebook. Christian, Barbara, Diego, thank you so much, you guys, for joining us over there. And everybody's saying hi over there. So just wanted to give a quick shout out to you guys. But anyway, one of the big pieces of news this week was we got a Vidoc from the Bungie team that laid out some of the Destiny 2 Year 2 content that we're going to be getting. I wrote an article on GameSpace that fleshes out a little bit what we can expect. So Bungie is doing something really, really interesting with the release of Forsaken. They're doing simultaneous seasons along with major content drops for a seasonal pass. So what this means is that even if you aren't a seasonal pass holder, there are still going to be updates to the game that you'll have access to. There'll still be some new weapons and armor and stuff like that you'll have access to. Like all of the major framework updates, you'll be able to take advantage of those things. The major seasonal events, things like Iron Banner and Crucible events, and then even some of the seasonal holidays too. Excuse me. you will have access to those things. But then on the other side of that, with the seasonal pass, they have 3 different content drops that are going to be taking place throughout the year, starting in December. So you have a little bit of time between the launch of Forsaken, which is going to be happening on Tuesday, which I cannot wait for. That's going to be happening on Tuesday, but to coincide with that, it's going to begin what Bungie is calling the Season of the Outlaw, and so we're going to get the launch of Forsaken and the story for that. Following that in December, we're getting access to the Black Armory. So this is going to be access to weapons and tech and stuff like that will help us in our fight against the darkness. That's going to culminate in the celebration of the dawning.
Darkness. That's crazy. Okay.
One thing to mention too is that in the Season of the Outlaw, the Festival of the Lost is coming back in October. This was something that Bungie did way back with Destiny 1. It's a seasonal event around Halloween with like different masks and stuff that you could get. Just some cosmetic things. It was pretty fun.
I vaguely remember those. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, following the Season of Outlaws, we have. I'm going to find it here.
Don't find it.
Wow. All right.
Let it run free. Go ahead.
Season of the Forge. Season of the Forge, which gives us the Black Armory content. In the spring, we're going to see the Season of the Drifter. This is going to coincide with Joker's Wild, which is going to be the next major content drop. This is going to be all about Gambit. Which, if you have not seen anything about Gambit is going to be the new PvP VE mode that's coming to Destiny 2 Forsaken. Nice. I'll be sharing more content about that at the beginning of this week and giving some more impressions on that. But there's plenty of videos and stuff like that. They revealed it at E3, but the Gambit is going to be evolving through the Season of the Drifter with some new content and some new story elements with that. And then finally in summer 2019 we have an unnamed season. They just put like Season of the Blank on their document that they and it was like it had like a redacted bar over it. But anyway,
super
that
secret.
Yeah, I know, and that is going to coincide with the Penumbra content drop, which we have no idea what that is just yet. I have some hunches, but I'm not going to share any of those right now.
No hunches yet.
No
hunches revealed. You're just gonna keep them in your little Quasimodo jacket. You're just gonna keep your hunches there.
I'm gonna keep them stuffed away, and I'm gonna go ahead and call it as Kiwi said it here in Twitch chat, that is going to be the Season of the 10. Well, it's actually going to be Season of the 10s because it's multiple 10s.
Right.
So, I mean, we could just call it the Season of 20, but I mean that
doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
It makes much less sense.
So, which speaking of, if you have not played Destiny 2 right now, actually starting tomorrow, I believe.
Well, yes. Actually, starting tomorrow for the stream, and then starting yesterday for the podcast.
Yes. Okay. So in the month of September, Destiny 2 is a part of PlayStation Plus's free games of the month. So if you have not played Destiny 2, it would behoove you to check that out. In my opinion, I mean, I also am one who absolutely loves this game. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. There are things I don't like about it, but I still love it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's on the PlayStation Network if you have PS Plus. And then on Saturday, September the 1st, the Gambit is going to be available for 24 hours. So if you want to get an idea of what Gambit looks like, you will have a 24-hour period of time where you can check it out if you have Destiny right now. Yeah. So I would strongly recommend I would strongly encourage and recommend that if you've got Destiny 2, check out Gambit. It's a pretty interesting take on PvP. And as somebody who is not really big on Crucible and really not big on Iron Banner PvP, I'm really looking forward to the offering that Gambit brings to the competitive space.
Cool. That is definitely something to look forward to, as I am not somebody who would get into Destiny 2 personally, because I don't know if it's for me specifically.
That's fair.
Free weekend still sounds pretty enticing. And, I only have so much time in my free weekend.
This is true.
Before next week, and the biggest release of the year for me is going to be releasing next week. But we're not going to get into that right now. Let's get into something else.
I was going to say the biggest release of the year is coming next week for me, too.
Oh, is it? Is it really?
Yes.
It's
Tuesday.
Well, that's different. Who cares about Tuesday? I'm talking about Friday. What?
I'll tell you what. Spider-Man does look amazing, and I cannot fault you for being excited about that.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna talk about it too much right now. We got other stuff to hit before I freak the geek out over it. Let's talk about something else. I know you got something else on your list, but let's talk about something that's on my list.
Let's do it.
Here's some news.
Talking enough.
It's probably bigger news if you're from Belgium, but whatever. We don't discriminate. World of Warcraft. You're familiar with it.
I am. Yep, I've heard of it.
A little bit. You've heard of it. At least once. They disabled paid loot boxes in Belgium, and let's act surprised on that, but as a WoW guy, which is not me, which is you, is this something you're hoping will be a continuing trend, or is this like a WoWy no-no for like the
there's a little bit. There's a little bit of you're slightly off in your information because it's there are not paid loot boxes in World of Warcraft. I think that what you're referring to are the loot boxes within Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm.
Really?
If I'm not mistaken, well, they're the only two Blizzard IP that have those. So that would make more sense to me than hearing that. Yeah, fact check it. Fact check it.
I'm going to definitely fact check it, but keep going.
Yeah, in World of Warcraft, really outside of things like your monthly sub and buying tokens to monthly sub tokens to share. Okay, so
I was mixing two things together.
Okay, you are quite welcome. You are quite welcome. So they're getting rid of loot boxes entirely from both heroes. Okay, so even the ability to earn them through XP level ups?
No. So it looks like, according to
purchase loot boxes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a big no-no across the board, as it seems. So it wasn't. So it is kind of a big thing because we're seeing that happen in a lot of games across a lot of European nations. So do you think that this is going to be something that's ever going to come here?
Well, I don't. And here's why. Well, if it does, it's going to be a little while off. But Blizzard with their loot boxes, though, I mean, here's the thing: is that they're not game-breaking items within those loot boxes. I mean, all you're getting are cosmetic things. Right. They're things that in no way impact the gameplay that you have. I mean, outside of aesthetic things. Right. Announcer packs, stickers, player skins, player unlocks if you're lucky to get a player unlocked, but there are other ways to earn currency within at least. I think everybody's unlocked in Overwatch. If I'm not, I haven't played Overwatch, so I can't really. I think the entire roster is available. Otherwise, then everybody would be a Hanzo main. But I think that in Heroes, though, within Heroes you have to unlock things. I mean, I don't see it changing in the States. you know, like
laws are completely different here. Yeah.
Yeah, and Splatter makes a good point in Twitch chat here, saying, you know, doubt it will happen in the U.S. Gambling only gets stronger, is only getting stronger here, which, yeah, it is. I could see some regulation maybe being slapped on it to actually classify it as gambling. It's a hard sell for me, because then I would have to ask the question along the lines of, okay, are you going to then apply that same tax or that same legislation to gumball machines?
Right.
Because what if I don't want the purple gumball? What if I was aiming for the green gumball? Right.
Well, yeah, I can see that. I see what you're saying. I don't think it works exactly the same necessarily, but.
I'm using hyperbole.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, you know, this isn't the first company that this has happened to. I mean, this happened to Valve, and it happened to 2K with the NBA 2K series. And so the sentences in these areas are huge. I mean, fines of up to 800,000. You know, players. You know, are just pretty much getting banned across the board from accessing these things, whether they like them or not, and they're classified as illegal gambling. So I don't necessarily think that it's something that's going to come to the States right now. We've kind of followed it a little bit. There's been movement as to try and bring that over here and say loot box bad, but I don't know if we're going to have it. You know? Well,
here's the thing. I think that by and large in the gaming community is saying loot box is bad.
Yeah.
But I think that with it really depends on how they're done, though, because they're so each game that has some type of like I would not equate the loot boxes in Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm to loot boxes and say Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yeah. Well, that's a little bit different now, though. I mean, the start of Battlefront, that was
right.
Yeah, that was pretty jarring. But now it's a little bit different in the sense of what their loot boxes have. But I see what you're saying.
Right. And I guess the question that I have to ask is at what point do you make people be responsible for their own actions and their own purchases within something like this? I mean, it'd be the same thing as if, you know, I decided, you know, that every day that I'm going to buy 17 coffees from Starbucks, and then suddenly I'm broke. Is it Starbucks' fault that I went?
I mean, it's addictive. It's
the fall in the pumpkin spice latte is back. So
of course it is. Yeah, if you're buying a Starbucks latte pack and you're not getting the one that you want, then obviously you're going to keep going over and over and over again.
I mean, occasionally you get a coconut milk macchiato, which it's does all right, you know, but it's not the same as the PSL. So. Yeah. But I don't know. Like I guess I wonder at what point in time. Just going back to the original statement, I wonder at what point in time will governments and gaming companies go, well, guys, everyone has agency to do with what they want with this. Yeah, you've got kind of these blind draws from these boxes, but.
But they are, but they're not. And that's the problem, because we as gamers, and we're totally going off on a tangent right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Kaboom, we blew it up.
Let's do it.
There's so much more to hit, but we as gamers, we're here for the shiny, and then they show us a shiny, and they're like, it's somewhere in this grab bag, and you just got to stick your hand in there and hope that you get it. And that's the problem, because we want that shiny thing that we saw one time before it was thrown in a sack with 100 turtle shells, and we don't know what we're gonna get, so we're always trying to get the thing that we want. And that's the problem.
I know that I've talked about this on the show before, but if you've never had a chance to look this up, at some point in time, look up the psychology of exclusivity. It's a very, very there are very, very interesting studies on why we do some of the things that we do, and some of that is purely for exclusivity. Like when it comes to like having like something like a luxury vehicle or like a luxury skin in a game or some type of boutique item
or the special ship in Star Citizen.
Yeah, or the special chip in Star Citizen
that hasn't even been created yet.
Right. It's one of those things that there's something in us that goes like, well, I want to stand out.
Yeah.
Like I want to have that special thing.
I want to be unique.
I want to be unique, just like everyone.
Like this.
Right. Yes. So yeah, it's but in Kiwi, I mean, you make it an absolutely great point there in Twitch that it's why people love Kickstarter exclusives so much.
Oh.
It's why people.
You meant the thing that she was talking about, pumpkin spice, but.
Well, I was going to try to tie it in there about pumpkin spice exclusives to Kickstarters, but you beat me to it.
Let's get back on the news topic because we fell off the bridge and now we gotta somehow find our way back on. Bring us back to Gwent. Let's talk about that. You got a little something on that this week.
Okay, yeah. So if you've played any of the Witcher games, there's a card game that kind of spun off from. I think it's The Witcher 3. I haven't really dug too much into the Witcher games, though I hear story-wise they're just absolutely phenomenal. But anyway, so Gwent is kind of this card game. It's kind of a mini game within that just blew up into its own entity.
Right.
Well, at some point last year, CD Projekt Red had announced that they were going to be putting out a game called Gwent Thronebreaker, right. Which was going to have some RPG elements and stuff like that, along with the card game, and have a little bit more connection to Witcher lore. Well, they recently in their sandwiched somewhere in their big Twitch presentation on Cyberpunk, threw this little thing in there of like, oh hey, by the way, Gwent Thronebreaker is no longer Gwent Thronebreaker. It's just called Thronebreaker now, a Witcher story, and so. Anyway, they wanted to delineate it from Gwent, the card game.
Yeah, exactly.
So that you have two different audiences. You have people that really, really love trading card games and want to hardcore get into Gwent, and then you have other people that are playing Gwent because they're like, hey, you know what? I like some of this Witcher stuff. I enjoyed my time in the game with it, so I'm gonna play this thing. And so they were kind of asking the question of like, well, what would it look like for us to tell some stories and use the mechanics of Gwent to decide the outcomes of some of the decisions and stuff like that. So so they kind of decided that they were going to do this parallel thing where they're going to be releasing Thronebreaker along with Gwent content.
Right.
That's I think the 1.0 or the I think Gwent is still in beta right now, but they were going to be releasing it right alongside of the like 1.0 release of Gwent or
right.
some major content drop for the card game. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing if you're into Witcher lore, if you're into if you've gotten into Gwent, it's just kind of an interesting piece of news that this thing is spinning off for the people that want an RPG with a little bit of Gwent versus a lot of Gwent without the RPG.
Right.
The RPG. They did say that these are two entirely different entities. It's not like an adventure within the Gwent application.
Right.
But they're going to be
completely different.
It's going to be completely separate, completely different, and that there's not going to be any crossover at this point in time between the currencies that you earn in Gwent and the content for Thronebreaker.
So instead of making one game to please everyone, they want to make two games to please everyone, essentially.
It seems like CD Projekt
please them separately.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
So,
okay.
So we do have a link on GameSpace.com that has the subreddit where somebody, a wonderful community, went and typed out all of the details of everything that was covered within that short sandwiched period of time within their Twitch stream.
Neato
Burrito.
Okay. Yeah, Neato Burrito. It's still going on with the taco Mexican theme, sort of.
Dude, I have guacamole in my fridge right now, and you're making me really, really hungry for it.
I've been hungry all week. Don't even get me started.
Okay.
So hungry, Dave. Well, let's move on to something not as I don't know, what would you say? I guess
palatable.
Yeah, palatable is good. Good. Let's go with that. Last week, Jacksonville, Florida. I'm sure everyone's heard about it at this point, and let's not have this be an all-consuming thing. And as we normally do whenever we get into these kind of topics, Dame.
Yeah.
But last week we saw yet another mass shooting, and while most of the time when this happens and video games are blamed, it's not directly the cause and the case, but unfortunately, while it isn't directly the case in this situation, it's still strongly correlated that this brainless butt hamster committed unspeakable acts due to losing at a Madden tournament. Yeah. So he wounded about 10 people or so, killed 2 other gamers, and he himself died and was counted as some of the slain. Madden is arguably not even a violent game. It's not a game that has guns and knives and dangerousness and snakes or whatever is dangerous these days. But Dame, what is happening here? What is going on? People still want to point fingers at video games, but what is it, Dame? How can we stop it?
Yeah, I mean, when I
pointed at the video games.
Well, one of the things that's really important, I'm always a big fan of context.
Right.
I'm always a really, really big fan of getting as much information and as much context as possible so that you can get to the heart of what's actually going on. It looked from what I read into or the situation that the venue that the event was being held at was in a couple year dispute with the city about providing security, and so there was this like back and forth of like, well, if you're going to hold an event, you're responsible for security, and the venue was saying, well, this isn't a very, very public place. And that's kind of what you do is you serve and protect in those public places, so I mean, security is one thing. One of the other things that was really I don't want to call it interesting, a little bit more unnerving. Two very, very unnerving things about this. Thing number one is that if you listen to some of the announcer commentary on this individual while he was playing, I mean, they were. I hate to throw around the term sociopathic, but when they were giving descriptors of his character in the game, and being emotionless and not being rattled and whatnot, like and being a hard to read opponent, like there's some of these sociopathic like behaviors or tendencies that are being outlined by the announcers like as they're like going through this, and well, you never want to be in the business of profiling people. Right. Because everybody's different in their own way. Everybody has their own quirks, and I'm not talking about the My Hero Academia type of quirks, though that would be kind of cool. But everybody has those different personality things that I'm sure that there are probably people watching this stream going, "What is this guy's problem?" But anyway, whatever the case may be, there were some warning signs that were in there that were things that, hindsight being what it is, going, oh gosh, there's some issue here. I'm trying to remember, were there some known issues with this guy at tournaments before?
Not that I had seen.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I don't want to put out information that I can't substantiate. I seem to remember something about that. But anyway, so that was thing number one. Thing number two was how long it took for Twitch to cut the stream.
Yeah.
As it was happening.
I think it's kind of it was. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It was a little long, but on the other hand, I think a lot of it was confusion and nobody really knew what was going on. So
yeah.
I think it's tough to really push the blame on them in that.
Well,
sort of thing,
no. I'm not.
No, I know you're not pushing the blame on them.
I'm just saying that it was an unnerving part of this experience. It was one of those things that, like, I think that it made this thing hit a little bit closer to home.
Right.
And the thing that everybody is, including myself, that I have to do, and I can't prescribe anything for anyone else other than myself here. But the thing that I need to do is that I need to remember that in situations like this, it is better not to make emotional judgment calls on things. Because obviously right now the gaming community is pissed that we're hurt. These are our friends, our brothers and sisters that we've played video games with. Even if I'm not a Madden player, but I mean, shoot, we're people that enjoy the same thing. We enjoy video games. There's something that's very, very personal about that, and it sucks. I mean, there's no other way to put it than that. But for me, I have to remember that I can't knee jerk react to this, because so oftentimes we can jump into the blame of, this should have been done and that should have been done and there shouldn't have been access to that and there should have been more of this and less of that, and we do a great job at armchair. Well, I say that sarcastically. We do a great job.
Great job. You got to really sell it.
Not to be punny here, but armchair quarterbacking, things like this, where it's like, oh, well, what you really need to do is this, and if you just took away that, or if you just put this in place, then we would never have these problems again. I said this before when in the episode that we talked about violence in video games and stuff like that. You can't legislate the human heart. You really can't. If somebody wants to do something, or somebody is inclined to perpetrate an action like that, they're going to find a way to do it, whether or not they have legal access to the thing or not, to be able to perpetrate the thing.
Right.
And I could soapbox on this, but I mean that's kind of my big take is and the other clincher with this too here is that it's very easy. It's very easy for me to sit back and say, this is a human problem. This is a problem. This is an issue with the human heart, but it's my human heart too. Like I have to be the one that deals with those things in me. Fortunately, for me, like I'm not inclined to perpetrate something like that, but I'm capable of it.
Right. Yeah. Well, you also kind of have a different perspective as well. The overarching thing of you, but I mean, your biggest fault in all of that was that you mentioned you have a human heart, and
I do.
I've been a robot for I don't know how long, and it's working pretty well for me. I can easily just point fingers and say that guy is a problem, get rid of him, and that's.
Well, I mean, when you're running on Linux, I mean, you have that authority, I guess, to do that.
But yeah, so that was terrible, and I hate it, and I hate that guy, and I hate everything surrounding this situation that we've been put in. But aside from that, do we have any other news that you want to chat about this week? Anything else on the list before we get into plugs?
I have a lot that I want to chat about, but I'm not allowed to.
Oh, tell us why.
I can't.
You can't even tell us why?
No.
Whoa!
I will tell you.
You guys
next
like that
week.
Wailing? Next week we can talk about it. Okay.
Next week we can talk about it.
Okay, fine. I'm not going to pressure you, but if you want to tell us, you can tell us.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Well, I thought I'd try one last time, but you can't blame me for trying, guys. Right? Everyone out there. So mentioning the NDA is breaking the NDA. We got someone out there talking about. Well, that's our short show this week then. I was hoping to have more fleshed out PAX information, but it seems like the best stuff we won't have until next week. But that's going to coincide with the developer interview from the development team behind Bus Simulator. It's kind of an unexpected hit, this Bus Simulator. A lot of people are streaming it. I don't know if maybe people aren't used to driving buses or riding in buses, or if buses are just kind of not really.
Now you're driving the bus.
You
right?
are driving the bus. I'm not personally yet.
Do your passengers thank the bus driver?
I would hope that they do, or else you would have a very angry bus driver. But I'm not really sure what it consists of or what happens on a bus these days, but I'd really like to check it out and see what it's all about, because it's been blowing up, yo, and that's a bad bus thing to do. But
no, it is.
Yeah, let's not get into that. But Dame, let's talk about plugs.
Plugies?
Pluggas.
Pluches.
Yeah, what do you have in the pipeline?
Ooh, my pipeline is backed up. Which that sounds like a really personal problem.
That's not good.
No, this past week, I should say, I had a review come out for a game called Hipster Attack.
Yes, you said something about that.
It is a hilarious, like, Plants vs. Zombies style game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was an absolute riot to play through that. It
was a laugh riot?
Yes, it was a laugh riot.
So
neat. Yes.
So you got the review up? Is that what you're saying to me?
I do. Yes, I do have the review up.
Well, I'd love people to go out there and check out the review specifically, but maybe you can give them a little spoiler.
I will give you a little bit of a spoiler. You are trying to protect the wonderful, beautiful gift from God that is coffee from dirty, filthy, neck-bearded hipsters. And you do that through throwing resumes at them.
Nice.
Among other things.
Among other things. Well,
but yes,
let's not get into too many spoilers about what you throw at them.
So anyway, whatever the case is, yeah. So you basically have to protect your coffee stand from the hipsters. And you cannot keep them from gathering at your location. So
if only we could, the world would be a better place. Go ahead.
So I've got that going on. And did you have any questions about Hipster Attack?
I don't have questions, but I do have a word that I would like to bring up, and maybe you can help me along with it by adding upon it. Hardware.
Yes.
Can we? Why don't we start with that?
Yes. So I have some hardware reviews that are going to be coming out here really soon. I had teased this a little bit a couple of weeks ago about the NZXT E850. It's an 850 watt smart power supply.
How smart is it?
Smart enough to tell you about voltage and to regulate, to give you control over regulating voltage along the 12-volt rails.
Okay.
So
that's a whole bunch of leet speak, yo.
I'm still trying to understand it, so hopefully that translates well in my review. But this little gem is actually at the heart of a brand new baby PC build that just got born today.
Nice.
I've got a Ryzen based system, Ryzen 5 2600X, that I threw in there in a Gigabit Aorus X470, which I will be doing a review for as well.
Nice.
So it is a pretty sweet motherboard with a lot of tuning options, and so.
And you're going to talk a lot about the tuning, I'm guessing. You're going to be.
It's not a tumor. Yeah. So I will be talking a lot about some of the controls for overclocking and some of the profiles that you can build within the BIOS, and some of the nifty features that Gigabit has included on this.
Are they nifty features?
Really
can you tell us that up front, because if we're going to be waiting all this time for the review,
no,
they're going to be nifty.
So one of the things that I really appreciate is that it seems like they really want to help manage heat off of the motherboard. So you've got big big IO shield.
Okay.
That's covering some of the rear components. But then you also have a finned you have a finned heat sink that bridges some of the capacitors for the CPU, and some of the even though it's an older design, the heat management from those components is actually really spectacular.
Well, I think the real question that everyone wants answered before we get too far into this is how many laser light shows can you have in this thing? Are you going to be having dance raves? Because that's all I really want in the way that my PC looks. If it doesn't look like an alien spaceship, I don't want it.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just all those things that you just said. Just yes. Just
all of those. All of the yeses, Stephen. Okay. All of the yeses. Okay. So right now, I mean, So I've got those two things. So we'll be getting a hardware review out. Actually, you can see this. Not this week on the motherboard. This week, hopefully, on the power supply.
Okay.
Motherboard just arrived today. So.
Oh, okay.
We had some hang-ups. I had some issues. I thought I might have had a dead processor. So we had some conversations with Gigabit, and I did an RMA on my processor and whatnot, and so everything.
I gotta point this out, because every time that we have a conversation, every time that you're on the show, you always have a little special tidbits hanging in the background.
I do.
And I sometimes I notice them. Last time I think you had Mega Man going on. This time
I did.
Show everybody what you got there.
I've got a chair.
Well, besides the chair.
Actually, the review for the RSP 400 is going to be coming out next week as well. This is the big and tall chair from Respawn. Nice. So yeah, great background thing going on there.
Yeah, the chair was definitely what I was talking about, and not the thing on the desk there. But
yeah, what do you have going on this week, Stephen?
What do I have going on this week? Well, before we do that, is there anything that anything else you want to plug this week?
Yeah, one other plug for me. This is a little bit more of a personal plug. Roll the Levels starts in our new season this week. We've got a bunch of things that are planned for the beginning of this season of conversations about life, God, and video games. Talking about the situation in Jacksonville that happened just a couple of weeks ago. We're going to be launching the season with having a conversation about forgiveness, and so there's a really big question, I think, that's been flying around, not overtly flying around in our culture, but that I've observed, which is the question of can people really change? Like, can people actually be better than what they were years ago? And there's a big conversation that ties in with forgiveness there. And so we're going to be launching the season with that conversation. And there are some gaming you know what? I can talk about this one because it's public information. It's public information, so I can talk about this. Okay. But with the release of Destiny 2 Forsaken, we see that Cayde 6 is indeed going to be dying at the hands of Aldrin Sov, and we're entering a revenge story. I mean, this really is a revenge story.
I do love those stories.
And so there's some really interesting things to wrestle with in there. So anyway, whatever the case is, that's kind of the big plug there. So hardware reviews will be going up over on MMORPG.com. Yeah, check them out. Let me know what you think.
That is interesting, because that ties in something that I also want to plug in a little bit. But I'm not going to touch that quite yet. Well, actually, maybe I will, because what I'm going to plug this week is the podcast, the Podcasts with an S at the end, because we have two podcasts that I want to plug this week, aside from Dame's podcast, obviously. But GS2 podcast, the Game Space Game Show podcast, has all of our back episodes on an easy listening service, many different ones. As podcasts seem to work, that's how it happens. They're just for easy listening. And we're on iTunes, we're on TuneIn, Stitcher, Everywhere. Spotify. I recently just found our Spotify channel. I was looking for it the other day, and I was like, I wonder if I'm really on Spotify, because that's where I wanted to be. And sure enough, we were on Spotify. So check it out. We've got a lot of great past episodes for you to check out, including this episode. If you're listening to it right now, listen to it again on the podcast. Second podcast that I'd like to talk about, our new one, The Hero Signal, which is our monthly podcast, not specifically related to GameSpace and MMO, but kind of adjacent monthly podcast. It's all superhero related stuff. And I also stream on The Hero Signal 4 days a week, Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And it's all just strictly superhero stuff.
I was going to say, you were playing some Marvel Ultimate Alliance the other day.
I was trying to, but Steam, ugh.
Oh, no.
This week is basically my last big week. I'm going to be going through some of the Batman Arkham games. It's my last week to really touch on that before Big Friday is what I'm calling it. Big Spider Friday.
Big Spider Friday.
And I'm going to be streaming all day on Friday. I took off work. I'm going to be streaming Spider-Man from the time it launches until the time I'm stuck doing this stupid this awesome show that everyone should definitely tune in for, because there's going to be a lot of Spider-Man talk. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Next week's episode is going to be amazing, so don't forget about that. But definitely,
and buses.
Yeah, definitely
Spiders
the
and buses.
We're excited about the bus simulator, guys. Lots of cool stuff on next week's episode. But I'm going to be definitely doing this episode instead of playing a game that I've been waiting for a very long time, and pretty much going to get no sleep for a week.
So Steven is like weeping in the side, like in his box, while everybody is talking, going, "Come on, guys, just shut up! I want to go play Spider-Man." You know what's going on. You know what's going on.
Yeah, so I'm extremely excited about Spider-Man, and we have our next episode of The Hero Signal coming out on Sunday. We talk about a lot of things that happened over this past month, and it's interesting because it kind of does tie in a little bit with forgiveness. Can people change? Well, hopefully people do believe that, because I'd like to see James Gunn come back around for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which he is now kicked off from. But you know what else is really cool that you guys are going to have to tune in to the Hero Signal for is on the 15th of September, I'm going to be going to a Comic convention, not the comic convention, but we have a new one that's starting up here, and it's going to have a lot of people from Guardians of the Galaxy. I've already got some time set up to meet with, it's more just kind of like a sign meet and greet. With Dave Bautista, and I'm going to take a picture with him and hopefully try and convince him to convince everyone else, as he's been trying to do, to continue with Guardians of the Galaxy, because we talk about the implications of him not showing up for the Guardians of the Galaxy and the returning Avengers Infinity War saga. So big things in the superhero universe, and next month is going to be even bigger. So get in on the Hero Signal while you can, because we want to have you there. If you're a superhero fan, there's nowhere else you should be, and if you are somewhere else, I'm ashamed of you. But that is pretty much what I want to plug this week. Aside from, what else? I do want to plug one more thing. Bill,
plug away.
Bill, I don't want to plug Bill. That sounds weird, but I do want to plug that he does have his MMO. Is it weekly MMO for the win that he was doing?
Yep, MMO for the win.
Yeah, was it weekly though? I thought that he was, for a while there it was kind of skittish. It was like monthly, but I think he's going back to doing it weekly. And I know we've got a lot of MMO people out there. And he really hits on directly what's going on in the MMO world, and
fingers on the pulse.
Exactly, we kind of have more of a broader scope of everything that's happening in gaming, in the gaming world. But he's specifically on the MMOs, and since we do go out to MMO, I know you guys are already probably watching it. But if you haven't checked it out, especially the people on the podcast, because we're 5,000 strong and growing, it's definitely something that you guys should check out if you are on the podcast listening to this and want to know what's going on in the world, specifically of MMOs, MMORPG.com. And that's going to be it for this week. Unless you got something else, Dame, do you want to say goodbye to all our good friends out there?
Goodbye, good friends out there.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Good night.
See ya.